Hello. 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 Hey. Hey everyone. This is Pete. And today we are going to be playing some Activision Anthology on PS2. This is a collection of games that a few people over on YouTube have asked me to take a look at some point previously. So I'm not ruling out an Atari A to Z Anthology series at some point, because there are some really great 2600 games in this, and I do like looking at 2600 games. But I thought this would just be a fun Wednesday night stream to spend some time with. So Activision Anthology, if you've not come across it before, it looks a bit like this, but with less light reflection. It's over 45 radical games in one, featuring totally awesome 80s tunes that we won't be playing today because I don't want to get DMCA'd, especially not when I'm starting out here on Twitch. So instead of the radical 80s tunes that play in the background when you normally play this, I'm just going to keep the pages from CFAX music playing in the background because that appears to be absolutely fine to use on both YouTube and Twitch at the moment. So I've certainly not had any problems with it so far. So enjoy that easy listening musical accompaniment to what we're doing today, and let's switch on over to the game screen. Now, as my good friend Infernal Monkey said over on Twitter earlier on, this is one of the most magnificent examples of a retro collection, because it's a real celebration of the games. It's not just a bunch of ROMs gathered together on a disc. It's a real nice celebration of all of these games and the culture surrounding them. So that includes things like the TV adverts for them, the way in which Activision used to do patches for things. So if you achieved something in a particular Activision game, you could take a photograph of your screen. It was normally getting a high score or getting to a particular point in the game or something. Excuse me, wouldn't be a Pete stream or video without a gigantic belch, would it? Anyway, yes, Activision used to let you send off for these patches that you could stitch onto your favourite bomber jacket or shell suit or whatever. Shell suits were a bit later, weren't they? And yeah, they were basically proto achievements, except you actually got something physical and tangible for them, which was nice. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of different games in here that are all on the rack at the left here. There's a list of unlocks here. So by achieving certain things in the various games, you can unlock various stuff. You can change between several different gameplay modes. Those are some of the unlocks. Those are mostly sort of silly visual effects that you can apply to the game, so you can sort of play them in various funny ways. Sound options over here. We've got the independent game music and sound effects, interface sound effects over here that you can adjust the volume of. So like I say, we've got the music turned right down, unfortunately, because, you know, it's a little bit risky to get to get some of these 80s hits on here, because I suspect there will be copyright claims involved. So let's leave that off for the minute and enjoy the easy listening sounds of pages from CFAX. And then up here, we've got some of the badges that I've achieved already. So there's Roadbusters. There's the Activision Billy Club from Keystone Capers. River Raiders from River Raid. And Order of the Supreme Star Master from Star Master. I think the Roadbusters must be from Enduro, I reckon. Anyway, let's just have a quick look at the unlocks as well that I've already got. So I've unlocked one thing from boxing, nothing from bridge, nothing from checkers, one thing from dragster, one thing from fishing derby. Oh, okay, and then the G, C, and P things represent different types of unlocks that you can get. Okay, I think that tells you how many unlocks there are and how many you've got. So I've got all of the unlocks for River Raid, basically. I've got the G, the C, and the P, which is nice. Anyway, let's get into actually playing some games, shall we? So we go over to select a game, and then we rummage through the rack, pick out a cartridge. Let's start with Beam Rider. I think we can, yeah, you can spin the cartridge around and have a look at it as well, which is nice. It's also nice to see an Activision game with a cartridge that doesn't look like it's been put through a blender. Because there's something about old Activision cartridges that just means those labels just deteriorate. And like, Yeah, I'm yet to see an old Activision 2600 game that doesn't look filthy, so it's nice to have a virtual 3D model. Here's a look at the manual. I think we can actually go in there and have a look. Yes, here we are. So, Beam Rider, Orientation Guide. The Restrictor Shield, 99 sectors deep, now surrounds the Earth. You are the Beam Rider on a mission to clear the shield. There you must demolish an onslaught of alien frights as you dodge from beam to beam. Sector after sector, the deluge deepens. So, 3 different levels you can play at. An L2 button to choose Advanced or Basic. So yeah, if you're familiar with the Atari 2600, that's the difficulty switch. You set it to A for a more difficult game because A for Advanced, and you set it to B for Basic or Beginner if you want an easier thing. Ludicrous Fool 79 says, this feels ahead of time in its presentation. The Sega Genesis Classics collection has a room menu and these kinds of features. Yes, it was. Like I said at the beginning, this really is sort of a benchmark for retro compilations, which is why it's such a shame that Activision hasn't re-released this or done something else with it since the PS2 era. Like all these great games and all the cool additional stuff that's included in here, like you've got the full manuals in here, presented in a way that is easily readable on the screen rather than being a blurry scan. It's a real shame they haven't done anything with that since then, because all of these 2600 games are just languishing in obscurity now. So the only way to enjoy this is grab a PS2 copy via some means. There you are, there's a 3D version of the box. 3D! Dark, dangerous, demanding. There you go. Alright, let's play Beam Rider. So I think we've just collected that, then we go back and choose Start the Game. Select a cartridge. I have selected a cartridge from the game rack. Select. And then back. Oh, you select it and then you select it again. There we go. And then it inserts it into the 2600 for you. And then you say select. And then you play. Alright, so let's begin. No, start to pause. Can't remember what the controls are for this, because the 2600 has a bunch of switches that are presumably assigned to the PS2 buttons. Let me just check what the controls are. Highlight options. Okay, here we are. So the color black and white switch is on the triangle button, so that doesn't work on all games. X button is the fire button. Select is the reset current game reset. And the game select switch is L1. So the game did get ports to PC and GBA in 2003, PSP in 2006, and iOS, Android in 2012, but they're all North America only releases. Oh right, yes, I do remember the some of those ports. In fact, I think I've got the PSP one somewhere. The GBA one was quite interesting because they actually ported a lot of these rather than just emulating them. So yeah, and it's a good fit for handheld play as well. Right, let us play. Hit select for game reset. Evidently we're starting at sector 8 because I've selected that somehow. Alright. And I'm dead already. Good stuff. Right. Let's just try that again, shall we? So in Beam Rider, your job is to shoot the white things with your laser lariats. Avoid the green things, because they're getting in the way. I shouldn't be starting at Sector 8, clearly. Alright, hold on. Let me see if I can select another mode. Alright. Let's quit out of that and try again. Alright, Sector 0. No, start me at 8 again. Why is it doing that? Why is it doing that? Select game type. Reset current game. Very odd. Alright, so those are the difficulty switches. They don't do anything. Shoulder button doesn't appear to do very much. Okay, I guess we're starting at level 8 then. Anyway, in this game, you shoot down the white things, and you get shot. You avoid the green things, and eventually a big UFO flies across in the background, and you have to fire a torpedo at it in order to destroy it. Yeah, so Ludicrous Fool mentions the Midway Classics Collection 1-3, Atari Anthology, Tecmo Classic Collection, Namco Museum 50th Anniversary, and the Capcom Classics Collection. Yeah, all of those are great retro compilations. I'm very fond of the Midway, the ones in particular. As an old Atari fan, I really like the Midway games because there's the Atari connection there. So why doesn't that let us change the difficulty? Okay, that's just not doing it. Let's try something else. Am I sure? Yes, I am. Right, let's try something I definitely know what we're doing with. So, Enduro. Again, another look at the manual there. To start, press the select button. Press the left analog stick, right or left. Oh, okay, so they've actually adapted these manuals to the PlayStation controls. Let's just have another quick look at Beam Rider then, just see what I was doing wrong with that. Now, level 1, begin. Press the select button and move the left analog stick to start the action. Doesn't actually say how to change the difficulty. That's strange. It does say use the L2 button to select the level of difficulty between advanced or basic. Okay, anyway, I want to play Enduro. So we're going to play Enduro. So Enduro is a racing game. Enduro is a racing game. It's the predecessor to the Great American Cross Country Road Race, which is a game on 8-bit home computers that I like very, very much indeed. So it's clear to see where the inspiration came from in this game, because it's a very similar idea. It's driving a car, trying not to crash into things, and trying to get as far as possible. So the main difference between Enduro and the Great American Cross Country Road Race is that in Enduro you're just trying to get as far as you possibly can, whereas in the Great American Cross Country Road Race you are trying to get to a particular destination across several different stages. So Enduro is a time-limited game. There's no on-screen timer, but the time is represented by the time of day. This was a very early game to have a day-night cycle in it, as well as variable weather conditions and all sorts of other goodness. So as we continue on our journey, you'll see how that goes. And you'll see, yeah, there we are, into the snowy territory. Your handling is a little bit tighter. And you'll see down at the bottom of the screen we've got the mileage counter, which is your score basically. And then underneath that you've got the number of cars that you need to overtake by the end of the day in order to proceed on to the next stage. So as the name suggests, it's a test of endurance. You just have to survive for as long as you can. It gradually gets harder. So after the first day, instead of passing 200 cars, you have to pass 300 cars instead. And it becomes a little bit more difficult to avoid them. And it's already quite tricky to avoid them as well, so... Oops! Yeah, you have to make split-second decisions at times, and it's easy to make the wrong one. But at least you don't explode into a fireball of death like you do in pole position. There's a sunset. Activision were famously very good at sunsets. And most of their games had some sort of multicoloured sunset effect in the background, even if it was just in the background. In this it actually has some relevance to the gameplay, but in other games, it was just there in the background as proof of their technical mastery. Because that was one of the noteworthy things about Activision, is that they were working on very low-powered hardware in the 2600, but they knew how to get the absolute best out of it. The founders of Activision all got their start at Atari, so they all worked on games for Atari. And so by doing that, by being right at the source of the Atari 2600, they were able to get a really good handle on what the machine was capable of. And then when they went on to form Activision, which they did as a form of protest against Atari for not crediting their programmers, they took all that technical knowledge with them, and they were able to produce some of the most technically impressive games on the system. So, I mean, while a lot of these games may not look like much by modern standards, when you consider that these were coming out in the early 80s, there really was nothing quite like them until later systems came along. Well, no, that's not quite true. There was stuff coming out on the Atari 8-bit home computers, which dated back to the late 70s. But in terms of games consoles rather than home computers, the stuff that Activision was doing on the 2600 was leading the way, absolutely leading the way. And yes, you're right. A lot of modern things that we take for granted in games, things like day-night cycles, weather conditions, that sort of thing, they date right back to games like this. And while we've got better technology to be able to represent those things these days, the guys at Activision, working under very strict technical limitations, were able to express all sorts of things by sort of making very simple uses of that technology. So you will have seen in the nighttime sequence that we've just been through, the effect of nighttime is created just by dimming the color palette and replacing the car sprites with pairs of headlights. So it's not doing anything clever with lighting or anything like that, it's just changing the sprites and the color palette. But it works. It feels like you're racing at nighttime. And the fog effect is a similar one. So the fog effect, it simply stops drawing stuff up the screen after a certain point, which means that stuff comes out of nowhere. And again, it changes the color palette, replaces the car sprites with the headlight sprites, and you've got a convincing fog effect. So it's that sort of creativity that I really love about this era of gaming, because there was no set way to achieve a lot of these things. A lot of people hadn't figured out the best way to do certain things in gaming, and that includes in terms of game design as well. People were still figuring out genres. People were still figuring out what was the best way to do a racing game, a platform game, a fighting game, a shoot 'em up, all that sort of thing. And a lot of Activision stuff ended up being really genre defining, because they did stuff in a really good way that worked well, and then other people borrowed their ideas. So Pitfall, which we will almost certainly see today at some point, is enormously influential on the modern 2D platform game genre. So we had sort of single screen 2D platformers, things like Donkey Kong and so on, and then Pitfall it went and incorporated the platform game gameplay into a much larger world. And then you move on to Pitfall 2, which is a very early open structure side-scrolling game. And sort of, you'd almost go so far as to call it an early example of an open world game presented from a side-on perspective. Yeah, loads of absolutely fascinating things going on with these games. Enduro here is one of my favourites. Like I say, it's really simple mechanically, but it's just really enjoyable and compelling to me. I just really enjoy this game because it's something you can fire up just for a few minutes and you can have some fun with it and you can try and beat your high score. And it's not a massive commitment. Like a game of Enduro is like a few minutes. But in that few minutes you feel like you've had a meaningful time. You feel like you've had an enjoyable experience. It's engaging, it's interesting. There's meaningful decisions to make along the way. And it's fair. We often talk about the balance between risk versus reward in arcade-style games. And this is a good example of it. Because you're free to control your speed in this game. You just hold down the fire button to accelerate and pull back on the joystick to slow down. But yeah, it's very much a risk versus reward thing, because sure, you can try and go flat out and try and get as far as possible. But unless you've got very, very good reactions, you're going to end up slamming into the back of someone if you go too fast. Although we are getting a bit short on time. Just need to overtake that last 10 cars or so. There we go. But as you see, there's a few little more subtle, helpful visual cues in this that will help you out. In the nighttime sequences, I didn't realise this until quite recently, and this is something that's also true in the Great American Cross Country Road Race. In the nighttime sequences, the cars that are going down the left and right lanes have pink headlights, and the cars going down the middle lane have red headlights. So you can use that to determine whether you should stay in the middle to avoid the cars, or whether you should weave to the sides. There are all sorts of little subtle things like that made it obvious that the people behind these games were really thinking not just about how to achieve an idea, but how to make it actively good for the player. So how they could incorporate sort of, I guess you'd call it non-verbal information. Though very few Atari 2600 games have text on the screen, because there simply wasn't the memory to store big chunks of text. The Atari 2600 had 128 bytes of RAM, and most games were between 4 and 8K in size. So there simply wasn't the space to have big chunks of text. And so they had to signal everything to the player through things like graphics and sound and that kind of thing. And Activision is one of those developers who got really good at that sort of thing. So into the snowy bit again. So it's probably not obvious just from watching, but the steering is a lot more sluggish in this section. So it doesn't really slow you down as such, but you do have to either respond a bit more quickly to the incoming cars, or reduce your speed a bit so that you've got more time to respond to them. Still 195 cars to go. Not looking that promising as we go into the sunset. But let's see what we can do. Let's take a bit of a risk and accelerate a bit. Give it a bit more oomph. Oh. One strategy worth bearing in mind in Enduro is that it's always better to hit the side of the road than to slam into a car. Because bumping into the side of the road will just slow you down a little bit, whereas crashing into a car will bring you to almost a complete standstill. So if you make a mistake in choosing which direction to go when you're trying to weave your way around complicated arrangements of cars, it's always best to bump into the side of the road rather than one of the cars. And it's always better to slam on the brakes than to crash into something as well. Yes, you'll lose some speed, but you'll lose a lot more time if you crash and come to an almost complete standstill, because, as you've probably seen a couple of times so far, these cars aren't afraid to overtake you when you crash. Which was another quite unusual thing for racing games at the time. Because if you think back to Namco's pole position, the way pole position works is that cars just sort of spawn on the track as you're driving around it. So even if you run the qualifying lap and get pole position, there are always cars in front of you. But in most cases, once you've passed those cars, the game just stops thinking about them. And the interesting thing about Enduro is that I don't know if it's necessarily tracking the position of the cars behind you, but it certainly spawns cars behind you when you're going slow enough. Which means that if you crash, a whole bunch of cars are going to come sweeping past you. 64 cars to go. Getting a little bit low on time. You have to take some risks here. 50 to go. Oh, come on. The sun's coming up. Oh no! No, that was the worst possible time to do that. Come on. Come on, I can do this. Maybe I can't. No, I can't do this. 16 to go. There we go. So that's Enduro. That's the game that I really, really like. Probably one of my favourite Activision games. Definitely one worth checking out if you've not explored them for yourself before. Okay, let's head back to the rack and pick some other stuff. Let's have a go at Keystone Capers. I'm very fond of this one as well. So again, let's have a quick look at the manual. The Crime Busters Handbook. Keystone Capers. Officer Kelly reporting for duty. Leaping leprechauns if it isn't Harry Hooligan up to his old shenanigans. A blunderous hoodlum is robbing Southwicks, whatever. And on a Sunday at that. Come on then, lend a hand. We've got to catch the crook, recover the loot, and be careful to boot. Listen up, don't get KO'd by wild shopping carts, beach balls, or biplanes. Obviously. And get moving, there's not a moment to lose. So this is, I guess you'd call it a platform game. It's not really a platform game in a traditional sense, though. All you're doing is you're chasing someone. And your job is to catch up with him via fair means or foul. So, and you'll see from that screenshot there's an example of an Activision sunset. Special features of Keystone Capers. Elevators and escalators. Southwick's security system. There's a sort of Defender-style radar. And here's some tips. Some basic training is all you need. First of all, practice your jumps, running jumps and jumping in place. Perfect timing is the real key here. Harry Hooligan is no dope. He's pretty crafty at switching floors when Kelly takes the elevator. So when you hop on, watch Harry on the security system display. Don't get off until you're as close to that crook as possible. So, to get the Activision Billy Club patch in this one, you need to score 35,000 points. And then, little fact here, cops weren't always cops. They didn't get the nickname until after 1845, when the first police badge was issued. The main ingredient, copper. There you go. Right, so, let's play Keystone Capers, conceived and created by Gary Kitchen. He was quite a famous designer of Atari 2600 games. He did some great stuff. Mostly for Activision. Right. Let's go. You got no sound? No, just my headphones have come out. Okay. So, in this game, you have to catch up with Hooligan Harry, who is running past there. He is the white dot on the radar at the bottom of the screen. And you have to make use of the escalators and the lifts and such like in order to catch up with him. And along the way you need to avoid the various obstacles, grab the things that he's dropped, and make sure you catch up with him before the time limit expires. You see, you run slightly faster than him, so as long as you sort of get moving as quickly as possible, you can usually catch up with him. Now, with each passing level, you'll get more tricky obstacles to avoid. So you start with just those bouncing balls, but as you progress, this one's got radios, which for some reason caused you to lose time. Then there's shopping carts, as it said, and then there's these remote control biplanes, which are very dangerous because they cause you to immediately lose a life. Most of the stuff in this game just causes you to lose time, which is the black number at the top of the screen. But the biplanes actually cause you to immediately lose a life. So you've got to be super careful of those ones. Once again, we should hopefully be able to catch up with him without too much difficulty. Hop neatly over that bouncing ball. And there we go. Another successful case. You got to think quite carefully when using the elevator in the middle, because it takes quite a while for it to get from the top floor back to the bottom. So sometimes it's best if you just keep running and just go for the escalator at the far end of the level. The thing you got to be careful of though is that you can't get back down. Oops! Once you've gone up an escalator, the only way back down is to use the elevator. And again, there's a long wait time involved in that. Right, again, we should hopefully be able to catch up with him. It's all about keeping moving and careful timing in this. Carefully timing your jumps in particular. There we go. Another case solved. So what have we got to worry about now? More shopping carts, and there's one of the biplanes there, so we're going to have to watch out for that. Have to duck under them, like that. Otherwise they take your head off. Take it clean off, they do. They don't really take it clean off, but that's what I always assumed happened. Whether you're losing a life from them. Oh no! Like that. It makes a horrible noise as well. One thing the 2600 was always good at was horrible noises that made you feel like you'd done something terrible. And this game's full of them. Is that coming down or going up? Going up. Well, that wasted some time. But it's okay. There's still time. There's still time. Down. And down. And run. And down. I've got you now, Harry Hooligan. He's a long way ahead, but we've got the whole roof to catch up with him. And jump. You see there's no elevator to the roof. The only way up to the roof is to use the escalator. Oh no! That's what I get for explaining things and not paying attention. It was going so well. Oh no. I've lost my concentration. I am ashamed to my Activision Billy Club patch. Right, come on. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And hop. And duck. And run. And duck. And jump. And duck. We're making better time this time. As we went waiting around to see what the lift was doing. And down. Alright, concentrate. Concentrate. You're better than this, Officer Kelly. Jump. There he is. We've got him, I say. Right. Now we have bouncing balls that are taking a higher arc. So those ones, you're probably best off ducking under them. As you saw, you can't quite fit under them by just running. So you're best off sort of positioning yourself in such a way that you can duck under the apex of their arc. Which is surprisingly not easy. You can also still jump over them at the lowest point of their arc, but it's quite difficult to time that, I found, so you're probably best ducking and covering. Oh no! Well, that's that. That's Keystone Capers. A fun game that I'm very fond of. Are you sure? Yes, of course I'm sure. Right. Back to the wreck. What else should we have a look at? If you have any requests at any point, by the way, do feel free to say. Otherwise, I'll just keep picking stuff that I'm fond of. Alright, let's have a go at Hero. This is another personal favourite. Our heroes, I think his name is Roderick Hero, if I remember rightly. Guides to Rescue Etiquette. Roderick Hero here, our hero to my associates. Do you see what they did there? President and Chief Executive Officer of Hero Inc., inviting you to join me in tackling a tricky maze of mineshafts, rife with the kind of danger we daring types only dream of. Until now, that is. Think of it, miners trapped in a mountain bubbling with lava rivers and magma deposits. Mineshafts crawling with vile vermin, all lethal to the touch. Oh, it's just too awful, and too exciting. I'm armed with equipment of my own invention. My prop pack carries me to even deeper depths while I zap creepy critters with my micro laser beam. Dynamite demolishes walls that get in my way, if my supply lasts, that is, and my power. Did I mention the terrible tentacles that loom up out of lava, or the massive walls that can crush me? What about the raft I ride on? Oh, never mind. Come along and make yourself useful. Alright, so this is, I guess you'd call this a platform game as well, of sorts. But again, it's not just a single screen platformer, it's one where you have to make use of the helicopter pack here and then rescue the miners. So obviously that first stage is super easy. And they gradually get more complicated as you go through. One thing I've always quite liked about this game is that there's quite an interesting sort of exploratory feel to it. Even though the levels are pretty linear, you still feel like you're sort of exploring things. Because a lot of the mines have alternative routes that you can take. Some of which lead to death. Others of which lead to opportunities to score points. You see here, if we go down this left path here, that's fine. But we can't go down that next left path because there's a spider there. So we blow up the pillar in the middle. Now, if we'd bumped into that light just above us, then the lights would have gone out and it would have made it much more difficult to see the obstacles and the enemies. There's a lot of really interesting game elements in this one. Oh, there we go. So that's what happens when the lights go out. So you can still see the enemies, but you can't see the actual walls and floors. Which makes things a bit tricky. So these levels are always the same, so you can learn them. So if you do happen to mess up a level, you can memorize what was going on. Oops! Just like here. But you see, a bit like in Keystone Capers, if you hit an obstacle, you'll pick up where you left off, and the obstacle that you hit will disappear. You see, we've got sequences where we're moving to the side as well as up and down now as well. And lights out again. But you see this nice touches like the fuse on the dynamite lights up the room. So again, just like in Endura, they're really simple but Oh no! They're really simple but effective solutions to depicting things that hadn't really been done in games before. Those flashing red walls, if you hadn't worked it out already, are fatal to the touch, so don't touch them. They do glow when the lights are out though, so that's one thing you can be sure of. This way? Yes. Oh no, not this way. Oh, we're going to have to bump a light out, aren't we? Yes. Oh, this is tricky. There we go. Where's the hole? Excuse the sound of helicopters going over, if you can hear that. We've had a lot of them recently for some reason. And they're very loud. We live quite near an airport, so we get a lot of fairly low flying aircraft here, but particularly helicopters. Oh no! Lights off. It's not the end of the world when the lights go off, as you can see. As long as you can sort of remember where things are to a certain extent. And you can sort of feel your way around a bit as well. By bumping into things and seeing what happens. Destroy the spider for bonus points! No, that's the wrong way. We've got to go all the way back up and round. And back here. No. Oh. Well, I'm confused. Ah, down there. That's the one. Okay. Oh no. Spidery death. I suspect we want to go over that way. And then down here. Down here? It'll do. Oh dear. I think I fell in the lava. Oh no, I did it again. Alright. Now, I believe you can start on a later level in this. So we can probably pick up pretty much where we left off. Let's try starting on game level 3. Well, that starts us on level 9. That's slightly ahead of where we were. But we should still see some nicely complex cavern design to deal with. Oops! Oh no. Oh no! Oh, come on now, Roderick. Right, that's better. Down the pit. Mind the spider. Don't fall in the water. And yes, you do have to be careful not to get blown up by your own dynamite. It is indeed a thing that can happen. Oh no! Curses. What's the highest level you can go to? Game 5. I didn't see what cavern that was starting on. But, I guess... Oh, everything's going faster. Oh no! Oh, that's clearly not the right way, is it? Oh, no! And then over here. This game was ported to a number of different platforms, I think, but it's probably best known on the 2600. You can get it for Atari 8-bit. I think I saw it was on ColecoVision as well. Don't know about Intellivision, but it's certainly best known in this version here. I grew up with the Atari 8-bit version. I've covered that previously on my Atari A to Z series on YouTube. If you want to compare the different versions of it. The Atari 8-bit version plays very much like this. It just looks a little bit nicer. It's got slightly more detailed graphics. Where's the... there. Oh no. Caught right in the middle of it as well. Go on, down, quick. Oh, that's nice. It actually stops moving if you get caught in it. So you can still sort of... Whoops. You can still sort of brute force your way through. Very nice. Right, that's Hero. I'm going to come back to that one because I'm very fond of that game. What else have we got? Let's take a look at Mega Mania. This is another favourite of mine. Mega Mania, a space nightmare. Conceived and designed by Steve Cartwright, this one. So here's the manual. If you think Mega Mania is just another space game, you're dreaming, and that dream will become a nightmare. A space nightmare! So prepare yourself for one of the most unreal experiences you'll ever encounter. Read these instructions before you begin, and give yourself a fighting chance. Oh, excuse me. You control a fleet of mobile blasters at the bottom of the screen, under constant attack by wave after wave of outrageous objects. Your goal is to accumulate points by knocking out as many enemy objects as possible before your fleet is destroyed. So, there's 4 different ways to play on this one. One play with guided missiles, which means that you can steer your shots after you've fired them. 2 player with guided missiles, and it's take it in turns rather than simultaneous. Or 1 and 2 player with straight missiles. Okay, so this is a fairly, at heart, this is a fairly basic shoot 'em up, but it's just a very good one. And as you'll see, like most Activision games, what it does is it takes a very simple, well-established formula, and it experiments with it a bit. It does some interesting things with it. So this is the basic sort of fixed shooter formula, as popularised by stuff like Space Invaders, Galaxian, Galaga, that sort of thing. But what we have in this game is we have a time limit, for starters, and then we have a variety of different attack waves. So rather than every level being basically the same but a little bit harder, as in those games that I just mentioned, what we have in Mega Mania, I keep wanting to call it Megalomania, but that's a very different game. You have these different attack patterns. So all of these objects attack in different ways, and you have to learn how to deal with them, how to avoid them, what are the best points to attack, and how to keep yourself as safe as possible amid all this chaos. And yeah, this game is really fun because of this. It's constantly varied. It's interesting. It's enjoyable to play. It has a really nicely gradual difficulty curve, so it doesn't get too difficult too quickly. Oops! I mean, it's challenging, don't get me wrong, especially with that time limit. But it's also quite generous with the extra lives. And yeah, it starts you off reasonably gently with the attack patterns, but they get very complicated and very fast as the game progresses, believe me. Whoops. But this one, as you can see, we need to move back and forth to try and avoid these objects, but also we need to, ideally, blast a safe pathway through the middle of them for us. That's how a lot of these formations work. If you can sort of clear a path for yourself, you can generally stay out of trouble. And then, as you see, once a formation reaches the bottom of the screen, if it's one that's coming down the screen, it'll then loop back round to the top again, so you get another chance to hit everything. You can't miss any targets. And then ones like this will simply go back and forth. Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm going to have another go at that, because I really like this game. One thing I'm quite fond of with this game is I don't know if it's a fan theory or if it was actually canonical in one of the versions, but there's certainly a theory that rather than just being a spaceship shooter, as the manual suggests in this one, this game is actually sort of supposed to be a manifestation of someone's anxiety. And I'm not sure how much sense that makes in this Atari 2600 version, because some of the objects are a bit ill-defined and difficult to make out what they're supposed to be. But it's certainly plausible for the Atari 8-bit version of this, which has more detailed objects to destroy. It sees you destroying things like steam irons and bow ties and engagement rings and that sort of thing. And so there's quite a popular theory that this game is about someone's anxiety about sort of impending domestic bliss, as it were. Like it's about someone who's about to get married and they're worried about what that means for their life, and thus they're having a space nightmare about shooting all the objects that are relevant to what's going on there. I think it's a very plausible theory. Like I say, it's perhaps not as obvious in this 2600 version, when it's difficult to make out what some of these things are supposed to be, but definitely the Atari 8-bit version, which again I think I've covered on the Atari A to Z series on YouTube. So be sure to check that out if you want to compare and contrast. Again, I think this game got ported to a few different platforms, but this 2600 version is probably the most well-known version. Come on, where are you? There you are. So we're playing on the guided missiles mode at the moment. You will notice as the ship moves, the missile that's going up the screen also moves. That's what guided missiles means. That convention was used in quite a few different Activision games. When we come to River Raid, you'll see that it was also used there as well. Oh no! Taking a beating from these rings. Just need to avoid the bombs. Oh no, that's not avoiding the bombs, that's moving straight into them. Careful. Oh no! This is unacceptable. But I'm going to play in Game 3 with the fixed shots, just for comparison's sake, and also because I want another excuse to play this game again. So this time, you'll see if I move, my shots don't come with me. They just proceed up the screen at the point where I fired them. Now, I'm not actually sure if that makes the game easier or harder. It's just different. It might just be better for people who are more accustomed to stuff like Space Invaders and Galaxian, where your shots behaved in that way, rather than following along with your movement. Ooh, I'm not sure if it's easier or harder. He says, failing to hit absolutely everything. Come on now. Oh, no. Oof. It's getting a little bit spicy here for my liking. Oh. That's a little bit safer. Alright, you sunshine, come here. Have some! I think I'm scoring fewer points because I'm having less time left at the end of the stage. And you may have noticed that a significant amount of your score in this game comes from the time bonus you get at the end of the stage. So actually one way you can sort of game the system a little bit in this game is shoot through all the enemies until there's just one left, then deliberately die. I didn't intend to do that, but it will be an apt demonstration of what I'm talking about. And then when you destroy the last ship, you get a lovely huge bonus. And I believe you get extra lives every 10,000 points in this. So if you time doing that properly, you can immediately get back the life you just lost. Oh god. One more try. One more try with guided missiles. And then I will move on, probably. Like I say, this is definitely one of my Activision favourites. One of my all-time favourites. This is also a game that my mum used to like. Neither my mum nor my dad were big gamers, but they took an interest. They took an interest in what me and my brother were doing. And there were a few games that both of them enjoyed. My dad was mostly into stuff like Flight Simulator from Sublogic and later Microsoft. But there were a few early arcade games that my mum was into. This was one of them. She also liked Millipede from Atari. There's a very good version of that on the Atari ST, which is the one that she was particularly fond of. But yeah, I particularly remember her enjoying this. And as I say, Millipede as well. And she used to joke that Millipede in particular was excellent stress relief for when the gentlemen of the Davison household were driving her bonkers. And as the only woman in a household of 3 gentlemen of varying ages, as you might expect, she took advantage of that quite often. I don't mean to suggest that we had a dysfunctional home life, far from it, but yes, I can't blame my mum for feeling outnumbered sometimes. Alright, come on, I'm better than the woeful performance I've been demonstrating so far. Let's... Again, I'm letting my patch down, which is not acceptable. I keep moving into the shots. That's not how you play this game. Oh no! God damn it. Right. Okay, I'm going to leave that game there for now, but I will, well, no promises, but I may well come back to that in a little while. Right, select a game. Let's have a look at Grand Prix. Grand Prix instructions. This is a very, very sort of Activision box with that sort of rainbow stripe that was found on most Activision Atari 2600 packaging. It was sort of their thing. You're about to enter the race of your life. Nothing stands between you and victory except the clock, the road, and the other drivers out to beat you to the finish line. So take a little time with these instructions and you may emerge as the Grand Prix world record holder. So there are 4 tracks to do in this one, and calling them tracks is a strong a strong description, as you'll see. But the basic difference between them is how many bridges they have along the way. And all you have to do in this game is avoid other cars and complete the course as quickly as possible. So unlike Enduro, this is not a 3D racer, this is a top-down racer. As you'll see, with some impressively giant sprites for the time, it has to be said. This game is by David Crane, who was the creator of Pitfall. But this is another quite fondly regarded game from him. Like I say, your only real goal in this... Oops! Your only real goal in this is to get to the end as quickly as possible. There's no par time, there's no time limit. It's all about challenging yourself, basically. And that's quite an interesting thing about a lot of games from this period, is that they didn't necessarily hand everything to you on a plate. In a lot of cases, they provided the means to facilitate some fun, but also expected you to kind of finish the job yourself, as it were. So in the case of this game, yes, you can have some fun just driving along and avoiding things and crashing into cars and so on. But if you want to sort of enjoy it over the long term, what you really need to do is sort of make a note of your best times. So 56.39. In fact, what I will do is I will write that down right now. 56.39. And then play it again and see if you can beat it. So let's play again and see if we can beat that last time. 56.39, as you will recall. So controls in this are dead simple. You just hold the fire button, or the cross on the PlayStation, to accelerate, and you move up and down. You can't move left and right or anything, but you can brake by pushing left on the joystick. That's not going to help my time, is it? And you'll see, just like a real Formula 1 car, these have excruciatingly slow acceleration. I jest. But they do have excruciatingly slow acceleration. So, although this is presented quite differently to Enduro, and it's much simpler than Enduro, it's got a fair bit in common with it as well. It's all about risk versus reward. It's about sort of responding to things that are coming up ahead of you. 48.26. I did actually beat my best time there. So let's have a go at one of the other courses with the bridges. Let's try track number 4, because that's got 3 bridges, I think. And we'll see exactly what that means. You notice that there's no corners in this game. The entire course is just drive in a straight line, avoid the cars. Oops. Now, where are these bridges we have to worry about? Now, what I should have done there is brake and weave a better path between them. But I did not do that. Haven't seen one of these bridges yet. Oh, there we go. Okay. So those are like little narrow bits of track. That you have to be ready for. You'll notice this track is a lot longer as well. Because the first track we could do in less than a minute. Whereas this one we're already at 1 minute 10. And there's still, I think, 2 more bridges to cross before you reach the finish line. Alright, this speed seems comfortable. Let's stick at this speed for a little while. Oh, you do slow down gradually if you let go of the accelerator. So, unlike in Enduro where you fix your speed. Oh dear, whoops. Oh god, you stop dead if you hit the side of the bridge. Yeah, unlike in Enduro where you fix your speed when you let go of the accelerator, and this one you do gradually lose speed if you let go of the button. Which makes for an interesting little twist on things. So this is another good example of a game that may not look like much today, but as I say, if you think about how this game can be used to sort of be the centerpiece of an activity rather than being the entirety of the activity, you can have a lot of fun with it. If you get some friends over, and then you pick a track and you each try and set the best time, that's quite a fun multiplayer experience you've got there, because you can have a good laugh at each other as you crash into things. Maybe do it on one of the shorter tracks though. Alright, that's the... Oh god! That's the 3rd bridge. Where's the finish? Oh! Wall of cars. Wall of cars. Oh, come on. How long is this course? There it is. 3 minutes, 2 seconds. I'm not going to try that again, but you get the idea. Anyway, it's Grand Prix. A fun game. Not Activision's best, but it's still fun. Right, let's do Pitfall. This is one of Activision's most famous games. Another one by David Crane. Picture this. You are deep in the recesses of a forbidden jungle, an unforgiving place few explorers ever survive. But you've got courage because you're with Pitfall Harry, the world-famous jungle explorer and fortune hunter extraordinaire. The lure of hidden treasure draws you and Harry deeper and deeper into the bush. Of course it does. But being a great explorer, you wouldn't think of starting such a difficult journey without reading this manual first very carefully. Hello, Meg. My cat says hello. Anyway, the object of Pitfall is to guide Harry through a maze of jungle scenes, jumping over or avoiding many deadly dangers, and helping Harry grab the most treasures in the shortest possible time. Yeah, so, like I said earlier, this is a platform game that helped to sort of establish the formula for what would become stuff like Super Mario Brothers and that kind of thing, the scrolling platform. This doesn't scroll itself, but you'll see. You'll see. Let's pop the cartridge in and play. So you hit select to begin. And we're off on our journey as Pitfall Harry. So he can run, he can jump, and he can lose points when he gets hit by logs. The logs don't kill you, but they do reduce your points. So you want to try and jump over them. And then you need to grab the rake to swing over this pit. Oops. And there's the alligators, which you need to hop on while... oh dear. While their mouths are closed. Disclaimer, I was never very good at Pitfall. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you can get across them in one sort of snap, as it were. Now, that cave down at the bottom of the screen, if you go in there, what happens is each screen you go in the cave is actually 3 screens above ground. So in order to get all of the treasures in Pitfall in the 20-minute time limit, you have to use that. Because if you don't, there's not enough time. They were specifically designed that way. You have to sort of learn the pattern of how the cave works. And use that to get to the various treasures as quickly as possible. Because the treasures are always in the same place. So long term, if you're truly committed to the Pitfall experience, what you're supposed to do is sort of map out the whole game, keep track of where the treasures are, use the caves at the bottom to reach those treasures as efficiently as possible, and survive all the way to the end. Now, I've always had trouble just surviving to the end, so if you can't do that, there's not really much point in worrying about trying to do things in as fast a time as possible, because well, you'll be dead. There's a fire, which, like everything else in this game, will kill you if you step on. And then you'll see the game just sort of loops around various combinations of the obstacles it has. There's the water pits and the tar pits, which basically work in the same way. You keep coming across the crocodiles. Oops. There's those bits. You need to jump across the pits, avoid the logs. And you'll see you can do things like jumping off the side of the screen to avoid the logs. More alligators, crocodiles, whatever they are. You see, if you jump on like the end of their head, so the bit that isn't their mouth, basically where their eyes would be, then you won't get eaten when their eyes open. It's quite difficult to judge that on this version. Again, on the Atari 8-bit version, which has slightly more detailed graphics, because it runs at a higher resolution, it's a bit easier to judge that. Oops. So you see, as we're continuing, we're getting combinations of obstacles. We've got the pit, we've got the rope, we've got a snake. Yes, that's the snake. You've got pits that appear and disappear at various intervals. More treasure. The watery ponds, which are always there. They're a bit easier to judge. Oh no, they're not. I tell a lie, those also disappear. Oh, that's an awkward one, isn't it? Jump! Yeah, and if you're going for sort of high scores and best times in Pitfall, you'll want to really make sure you avoid those logs as well, because they cost you quite a few points. Jump, jump, jump. Oh no! Anyway, that's basically how Pitfall goes. That's probably the best I've done at that for a long while, but I won't put you through that again because it will just be largely the same. But Pitfall is a game worth playing because we owe a lot to Pitfall. While we're on, let's take a look at Pitfall 2, which is a very interesting game for a variety of reasons. Pitfall Harry's Diary. We were all pretty worried about Pitfall Harry. We sent him and his niece Rhonda, along with Quickclaw the cat, on a treacherous journey to an underground cavern. Well, not a word was heard from him until today. We now present you with Pitfall Harry's Diary, the journal he's been keeping in the Lost Caverns. It arrived this morning by Carrier Condor, typical of Harry. So, there's the basic controls. In case you're wondering why I'm here, perhaps I've gone too far. I'm in an underground cavern beneath Peru. It seems to be a complex maze, perhaps 8 chambers wide and over 3 times as deep. Niece Rhonda has disappeared along with Quickclaw, our cowardly cat. I'm beset by all manner of subterranean creatures in this vast ancient labyrinth, and all because of a rock. The Raj Diamond. It was stolen a century ago and hidden here. Old friends, if ever you see this diary, I hope you'll read it and come to my aid. Help me find Rhonda, Quickclaw and the diamond. On the way back, let's also look for a Stone Age rat. A large university wants it for research. Finally, lots of stolen US gold bars were ditched here. The more bars we recover, the more brownie points we'll get at journey's end. For the record, if I want a perfect evaluation, which is 199,000 points, I must find Rhonda, Quickclaw, the diamond, all 28 gold bars and the rat, and never fall victim to a single danger. Again, though, my contract only requires the recovery of Rhonda, Quickclaw and the diamond. Everything else is gravy. But oh, danger prevails. Poisonous frogs, bats, condors, electric eels, albino scorpions, and leaps over dark voids that dare me to fall to their fathomless depths. All of these pitfalls, see what they did there, must be avoided. I'm not really sure what'll happen should I succumb, but it can't be good. I'll check it out tomorrow. So, this is interesting because it's a game where you can't really die as such. So unlike in that first game, Pitfall, which is very much an arcade-style experience, this is a game designed to sort of be played in a longer session. So here we go. You'll see that it starts off looking very much like the first Pitfall. But as soon as we begin playing... my goodness, we've got music! Whoops. That's a good start, isn't it? That's because the Atari 2600 cart for this had a extra sound chip in it, which allowed it to produce sounds much, much better than what the Atari 2600 was usually capable of. The standard Atari 2600 sound chip, which was known as TIA, or the Television Interface Adapter, was only capable of 2 Sorry, my cat has just got on my desk, so expect to see her in just a moment. Let's start from the beginning again. I'm not accepting that many deaths in one go. What do you want, Patty? I've given you dinner already. I made sure to do it before the stream. Right, there we go. Why? You're distracting me. See, you've made Pitfall Harry die. You made him die and lose points. So, as you can probably see in this game, if Patty will allow you to see me, when you take damage from an enemy, what happens is that instead of just dying and losing a life, you're sent back to the red cross. Now, I'm just restarting each time we die because it's not really worth losing those points right at the beginning when you can just start the game again. Oh, it's so hard to get past that thing. Oh, that's so annoying. So as you can see, this game has a fair amount in common with Keystone Capers in terms of how you avoid the enemies. They sort of move on set patterns and you need to find the optimal way to get past them, but Pitfall Harry can't duck, which is a bit of a problem. There we go. Alright, hop over there. Hop over there. Hello, Patty. Hello. There's a deadly poisonous frog. Now the best way to handle this dude is actually to climb down the ladder and then hop out on the other side rather than trying to jump over him. And there's one of the missing gold bars. So let's nab that. You see the music goes all triumphant when you do that. And let's fall down here. No, Patty, this is not the time. Oh no. Right, there's another red cross. So you step on that, that is a checkpoint. Which is quite an unusual thing to see in games of this period. So now, if Pitfall Harry dies again, he will go back to that red cross instead of the one right at the beginning of the game. Oh no, whoops. Patty, I can't see the holes in the floor when your head's there. You'll also notice that you lose 100 points for falling down a hole as well, so ideally you want to use the ladders. Another gold bar. You might hear that the music on this is a little bit out of tune and there's a bit of sound stuttering going on. If you play the original 2600 version of this or play it on a more modern emulator, it sounds a little bit better. I think just the emulation on this collection is a little behind the times, as it were. I mean, it is a PS2 title after all, remember. I mean, yes, you would think that the PlayStation 2 would be at... Patty, you're very much in the way. Go on, go over here. Oops. See, now look what you've done. Yes, you would assume that the PlayStation 2 should be able to handle Atari 2600 games without too much difficulty, but remember, at this time, emulation was in its... I don't know if I want to say it was in its infancy, but it wasn't as widespread as it is today. And there's certain systems that we take for granted as having perfect certain systems that we take for granted as having pretty much perfect emulation today weren't as good a state as they are now. So I guess that's what happened here, which is a bit of a shame, but not the end of the world by any means. And it means that this collection has a bit of its own unique personality as well. So as you can see, a lot of interesting things going on in this game. A lot of repetitive scenery, it has to be said. Like this whole bit here is all very samey, but I feel that's at least partially intentional to make it a bit of a challenge to navigate and remember where you're going. But the fact that we've got a sort of open structure... What do you want, cat? The fact that we've got an open structure exploration platformer like this in the early 80s is really remarkable. Especially when you consider the size of it. This is a pretty substantial game. As you can see, just this pit here goes on for a pretty long distance. Oh no! Oh no, it's going to take me all the way back up to the top again. Look at all the points I'm losing. But one of the nice things about this game... is that if you're ever in a bit of trouble with one particular sequence, you can just say sod that and you can go a different direction. Except that's a dead end. What can we do? Let's go down here. Let's go this way. Ooh. Oh, you know what? Why not? Why not? Thump! There's some treasure. You don't know if you don't take the risks. Now that's gonna... yeah. Oh no, that's down to a new area. Now let's fall down here. There are sort of landmarks to tell where you are there. So I guess there's that rocky bit. Oh, there's another gold bar up there. Let's go get that. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! You got no air control in this. So once you start falling, you're gonna fall all the way down. But yeah, as you can see, you can't really die in this because you've got no lives. I don't know what happens if you run out of points, actually. I don't know if we'll play long enough to find out, but certainly I guess that is a possibility that you could just run out of points. I don't know if that means your game's over or not, but... oh no. But yeah, as it said in the manual, it is possible to get a perfect score in this game, and that's 199,000 points. That means that you collected all of the treasures in the game. You didn't die, you didn't fall down any pits, and you got all the gold bars. So in order to finish the game, all you need to do is find the niece, the cat, and the diamond. But if you find the other stuff, you'll get more points. I've never done any of that. I should probably add. This is not a game I spent a ton of time playing when I was young. Again, I had this version on the Atari 8-bit rather than the 2600. Because I used to find it just a bit frustrating. Oh no, I've done it again. And I've done that again. I used to find it just a bit frustrating, just because the enemy patterns are just a bit tricky to deal with, and as a youngster I didn't have sort of a lot of precision for stuff like that, and you have to be very precise with your timing and positioning in this. Makes it quite a tricky game, but one worth engaging with because it's an important game. I'd probably go so far as to argue to say this is a more important game than Pitfall 1 in terms of what it's doing. It occurs to me that you're hearing Pitfall 2 music combined with pages from CFAX, so I can only apologise for that. Hopefully it's not not clashing too much. Oh, frog! All right. Well, while he gets sent back. How long have I had the wrong screen on, by the way? I'm going to go ahead and assume that my cat did that. But anyway, we're back on the right screen now. What I will do is I will turn that music off for the moment. So that we can continue in peace. Anyway, apologies if you're trying to watch that, and I've been stuck on the just chatting screen for ages. So I'm going to go ahead and blame my cat for that, because it's usually her fault. I think she probably sat on the mouse and clicked something she shouldn't have. Oh well, who'd be a pet owner, eh? Well, that's tricky timing there, isn't it? Oh, there's another one! You know what? That's enough Pitfall 2. That's enough Pitfall 2. Let's pop the music back on then. So we can... We don't have complete silence in the background. Right. What to look at next? Let's have a go at Pressure Cooker. It's another game from Gary Kitchen. Short Order Sam's famous fast food cookbook. This is a really cool game. Again, another very original idea. Because, yeah, I still haven't seen many games like this. Business is booming at the grill. Hamburger orders are just pouring in, but back in the assembly room, the food dispenser is pouring out condiments everywhere. Help Short Order Sam fill each order with the proper combination of tomatoes, onions, lettuce and cheese. And don't forget the bun. Then rush the completed orders to the wrapping room fast. Alright cooks, grab your spatulas. So, in this game, you're making burgers, but you're not doing it like you do in Burger Time. You control Short Order Sam here. And you'll see down at the bottom of the screen you've got several different orders to fulfill. So the first one requires some tomato, so we put that on there. And then we've got the bun top. Then we can take that down to the wrapping room, and that needs to go in a green thing. Right. We don't need lettuce, so what we can do is... Oh, you can throw it away, but apparently you can't. Okay, well, we don't need an onion, so you hold down the fire button and bounce it back. That's what I should have done with the lettuce. We do need some cheese for one. So there's the top of a burger bun. And this one goes in a blue pot. Don't need cheese at the minute. I've made a mistake there again. Right, tomato. That goes there. That goes there. and then this one goes in the green machine. So the number 35 at the top, that's the number of demerits you can have. Basically, you'll lose points from there when you make mistakes. Patty, no. You'll lose points from there when you make mistakes. Sorry, cat distraction again. You'll lose points from there when you make mistakes, and if you run out of those, then that's game over. So that's going in the green. No cheese. Do need some tomato. Put that there. And then this one can go in the red. And the game just carries on like this. So it's a simple game. I guess you'd call it a puzzle game of sorts. Oops. That was an error. Do need cheese. Do need lettuce. Pop that in the red. Make sure you actually drop it down the chute rather than smashing it against the side as I did last time. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. That should have gone in the green. Alright, we've filled one of the bins now. So that takes you on to the next level. And you get bonuses for all the burgers that you've done. So what you want to try and do is almost fill all of the bins. Because that way you get a bigger bonus. So now we have some slightly more but complicated burgers to deal with. So this one needs some cheese and some onion. And then that goes in the blue bin. This one that needs tomato. Tomato and onion. There's an onion. Pop that on there and slap a lid on it. And that goes in the blue again. Cheese and lettuce. Oops. Oops. Oh dear. That goes in the red one. Don't need tomato. Patty, stop it. Please stop it. Oh, Patty. You're such an annoying cat, but I do love you. Right, tomato and lettuce. Great! Before it runs away! There we go, and then that goes in the red one. Oops. Do need cheese, do need tomato, we're gonna lose one. Oh no! Oh no, it's all going horribly wrong. Right, onion and lettuce. 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 Oh no, we lost it! Oh dear. Well, that's the end of our game there. Let's have another try. Hopefully without cat distractions this time. So we need a lettuce, an onion, and another lettuce for those 3 burgers. So no tomato required. No cheese required. Right. We need an onion. And that goes in the red. No cheese required. No onion required anymore. We need tomato. Oh no! Alright, just a lettuce. That can go in the green one. Still no cheese. Do need a tomato for a blue one. Into the blue hatch. Another lettuce. And the burger top. Onion. And that can go in either the green or the red. Do the green one because that's flashing. And some cheese. Cheesy peas. No lettuce required. There is a tomato needed for that one. See, this is a game where you really have to concentrate. And that's a bin full. Bonus! Oh no, we're still going. I guess you got to fill more than one bin then. Onion. No lettuce. Cheese. Red. And tomato. And top of the bun. And red. Oh, there's a set number of burgers. Okay. I see. And this is the last burger for the level. So it's not that you have to fill the bins. It's you have to do all the burgers. And not mess things up along the way. We should have done a plain burger. There we go. Okay, so if you get them all right, you should fill all the bins up. I guess that's how it works. Alright, onward to the next challenge. We got a cheese, and we need an onion to go with that. There it is. Another cheese. Another bit of cat paw entering from the side of the screen. Cheese and lettuce. Hello, Patty. Very good. Just the lettuce. A green one. Get off the camera. I'm trying to be a star here. Oh, now you're going to get down. Okay. Oh, curses. Oh, I'm making a real mess of this. Alright, there we go. That's better. That goes in the green. Oops. Tomato and cheese we want. There's the cheese. Quick! Ooh, just about rescued it. Don't need any more tomato. Do need onion. And that one. Do need a lettuce as well. Oh no! I put it on the wrong one. I think it's all over. Is it all over? I think it might be. Well, that's the end of that. Alright. Okay, I think we're going to call it a day there for now. So we've been through a bunch of the games in there. I do want to take a look at this again at some point. And as I say, I am quite interested in doing an Atari Activision Anthology video series at some point on YouTube. I know quite a few people have requested that specifically, so I'll have to find time for that at some point. But anyway, I hope I wasn't stuck on the just chatting screen for too long. Like I say, I'm going to have to look back over the VOD and see exactly what happened there. I suspect a cat trod on a thing that they're not supposed to and switched the screen over. But yeah, apologies for that if you're trying to watch things and you just had to stare at my ugly mug for the entire period. But these things happen. I believe they call it scuff these days. Anyway, just remains for me to say, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.